Hi everybody, this is Sam the Robot Man. I'm here at MEX Kanazawa with Mr. Kozaka from Takamatsu Machinery. He's from the design department and, well, I wouldn't be Sam the Robot Man if I didn't love my robots. And this is a bloody awesome setup we've got right here. Check this out, we've got the mighty Fanuc CRX20 here, 20 kilo capacity, cobot. But the really amazing thing here is what's actually going on. You probably see, wow, there's like a piston here and a lot going on inside. But we have Mr. Kozaka here to actually explain. So I'm going to jump into Japanese and we're going to have a little bit of a chat about what's actually going on here. Kozaka-san、もう今日は本当に時間をいただいてありがとうございます。こちらはもう本当に見た目的にはすごいんですけど、一体何してるんですか、こちらは。
ですね、こちらロボットで、ワークの脱着はもちろんながら、自社製のコレットの交換で、
コレットの交換ですね。じゃあ本当にコレットの、ワークの各系に合わせて、
そうです。
全部自動で変えることができるっていうことですね。すごいですね。で、今は、
キャプトの刃物を使って、刃物交換。で、今はちょっとコレット交換行くんですけど。
コレット交換に今入ります。
はい。
すごいですね。So you can see it's about to change the collet out. And as you can see, we have an array of different hands for work, material handling, collet change. You can just zoom in here. We're actually changing this collet out. Wow, so the faceplate is coming off. The robot is going to place it down here very elegantly. As you can see, we have limit switches and sensors everywhere just to make sure that everything is working as it should. So if you want a complete lights out machine, this is the way to do it. Work holding, tooling, material handling, machine tending, everything in one package. And so as you can see, this is just a dummy machine. The reason they've done it this way is we can hook this up to pretty much anything. So let us know what you need here. We can see the collet has just come out. That's going to go into this fixture here. So this is a 20mm fixture. And we're changing over to a 30mm collet here. Wow. Isn't that something? So we have a look there into the collet face. So just imagine at your shop, you've got a lot of variety, a lot of changeover. No worries, we've got you handled here. We can automate the works. Isn't she a beauty? There goes the hand. That's going to go back. Grab the plate. And then after that, we're off to the races again to machine more parts. Kozaka-さん、これはなんか径とかで制限とかされてますか？コレットとかで。
コレットの径で、今ついてるコレットだと、ちょっと30パイ。
30パイぐらいまでですね。
そうですね。今6インチのサイズについてるんですけど。
知ってるんですね。
それだったら30。で、30と20のコレットを今、デモンストレーションで
使ってるんですね。
交換してます。
もうやりたければ、もうフィクセを増やして、いろんな系に合わせることが可能ですね。So we're demoing right here with 2 collets, but if you can imagine, you could have an array of other collet fixtures here, and the opportunities here are endless, really. So what we're seeing here is really the next step in the evolution of machine tending. Up until this stage, I think we've all seen work being handed in and out of a machine, but now we're actually doing collet changes, and we also have the ability to change the tools on the turret as well with captor fixturing. So hopefully we'll be able to see that in a moment too. Here we go, here's a Capto tool, and that's about to be placed into the turret. So originally you may have felt as though you were limited to, maybe 8 to 12 tools on your turret. Not anymore. You can have as many as you want. Just lay them out in a fixture in front of the machine. And as you can imagine, we could always have a table here to put the work pieces on. We could put a camera there if you need some vision picking. Integrated into that system too. So if you want a 100% lights out machine, we've got you covered here. What a beautiful machine.